we're back, and now we're going to start with JP Morgan Chase. JPM is our symbol. Wave 3 was 55 hours long. Let's knock this back into half hours, 102 half hours. And it was shorter than wave 1. So that's going to time restrict us to 102 half hours for wave 5 when we get to it. Let's lay out our levels. So wave 3 began with the market back on 7 April. Working its way, wave 3 ended, marking wave 4. Again, this is more on the cleaner side. Wave A, you've seen 5 nice waves up to A. B came down for what looks like a 5 wave, but that's because it looks like wave B had the extension inside of him. And then we are now somewhere in our C wave. We've got our levels on the far right is our retracement of wave 3's retracement for wave 4. The middle column is what wave A did and trying to figure out wave C, and then our other column is what wave 3 inside of C has done. So looking for that overlap, as I've discussed in our prior videos, for where wave 4 could end. Right now we are limited. We cannot go above 254. We're kind of getting close. Of the ones we've looked at so far, this is actually, I think, the second one that has already touched this 85% retracement level, so 85.61 retracement overall. So we're kind of narrowed down. We have about 7 points to play with from that prior high. That's also where wave 3 ended. So I have wave 3 beginning around 233 and ending around 246.79. So we're not going to have overlap of all the columns anymore because we've already run out of our first main retracement. So we're looking at a potential top here around 248. That's where 2 of them agree, and then there's no agreement after that point. And it looks like 248.6 is actually what I'm going with. Also, wave 3 is done. Wave 4 is most likely done as well. There's not much movement to go. So sometime in the next probably day and a half, JP Morgan Chase will get up to 248. Looks like it closed today at 243. All right, so once it hits that 4 spot, then it's going to be time restrictive. So if it ends around 11:30 or 11 on the 30th of April, it then has 102 half hours to reach its bottom. So what does that look like? We squeeze our chart a little bit so we can see some of those levels at the bottom. If we do top at 248.6, so here's my other chart of all of our levels laid out again. I highlighted we have the most agreement around 248.6. We are required to hit in 102 half hours. If we top on 30 April 11, we must bottom by 12 May. And our levels at the bottom, I actually did not choose one this time. I'll probably choose one of these two right here. This is generally the area that we'll see a wave 5 drop, 114 to 123% extension. All right, so if wave 3 ended at 202, then we're going to drop from whatever our high is. I have our top at 248.6 all the way down to 202. That is a significant drop. That would be an 18%, almost 19% from top to bottom. And if we hit that next level thereafter, that would be a 21% drop. And then if we go down to the 123 extension, that would be a 23.5% drop. So we're looking at another one of these stocks that has a 20% drop in it. Is this abnormal? We look back at what it's done so far, and I guess the answer would be no. So one dropped 20% thereabouts, and then wave 3 dropped another 20%. So 20% has been done multiple times or close to it. So 20% is not out of the impossible window at this point. So right now, we'll call a possible bottom around 194.5. Our next stock will be Meta. And Meta is Meta. Alright, so we zoom out on this one. Now this is one I've actually traded quite a bit as we've gone up and down. It's been one of the more predictable symbols, which has been really interesting as we go through it. First thing I look at is from our half hours. Wave 3 was 115 half hours, which is shorter than Wave 1's 261 half hours. Therefore, when Wave 5 begins, we are time limited to 115 half hours. Once again, if that tops sometime this week, it's going to put our bottom sometime before the middle of next week. Currently, Wave B, this is the first time we've seen this. There's a few other stocks that did this, where in Wave 4, Wave B actually dropped below where Wave 3 was, just briefly. And it's begun to make its rally. It'll be interesting to see if this actually breaks above 587. That is where A ended. So A shot up pretty quick. B gave all of A's gains back, and then this stock has actually been moving up pretty well, while some of the other stocks have been moving more sideways in the past week. In trying to figure out where all of our agreement is for our lines again, for our levels, the far right, this will be our Wave 3 extension and retracement. And then, let's see, this left column, this is what Wave A did, so we'll use that to figure out what Wave C will do. And then I think yep, here's our Wave 3 indicator here. So Wave 3 began, Wave 3 probably ended here. So Wave 3 most likely ended it was probably this morning, 28 April, after it had begun last week on Wednesday. So it's going to be interesting, like I said, to see where we go. I still think we have more time here. So it's been interesting. Most of the stocks are actually topping and bottoming together on the same day. There's a couple that are kind of laggards to it, and there's others that are ahead by a day or two. Meta has a lot of ground to cover if it is going to get above where A ended, up here at 587, and it closed today at 549. It has quite a movement to go, and I don't think one day is enough to do that. Now, Meta has been moving 40 points in a day. That's not a problem, but we still have quite a bit to go. So normally you look for catalysts. So the first thing I ask myself is, how can it get up and above 587? Well, when are earnings? So I go on here. I'm going to turn on my earnings real quick. And when do earnings happen? I'll look at that. At the bottom, I have my pink E. I click on it, and it says earnings are going to be Wednesday, 30 April, and then it has a little moon. That's after the market closes. Well, guess what? That's perfect timing for a day late. So if everything else is going to end with a top on 30 March, early in the day, there's a catalyst event at the end of the day for Meta. Now, I was looking for a something to boost the stock above, but when we're time restricted, right, we have 115 half hours in which we need to start our decline. The easiest way to start that decline is actually to have an event with a high top, but that in that same bar. So whether it's a 30-minute bar or maybe an hour bar, you peak and then you also drop quickly in that when we're moving when we're looking to move toward the downside, because it does not cost us too many bars to make that large move. So we can hit the top and then immediately begin to retrace. So what could happen is typical of earnings. People may come into the market the next day after the news overnight. They've had time to digest it, and they saw the news and it was great, and so it's a buying frenzy. So I wouldn't be surprised if Meta actually opens up high on Thursday for some positive news initially, but then the outlook or whatever else is going on in the world then begins to take Meta lower pretty much right away. That would actually line up with being a one-day laggard, as Meta has been throughout some of this trading. But it also makes sense on how they can clear this final 40-point gap, and then also catch up and drop with a bottom by sometime next week. So when I look at what levels on or above 587, we have agreement, we kind of bounce around 590, 594, not really. Maybe we're getting close to 600. So we have a 598, 600, and 603. This is our first place where we have some agreement. Because B dropped below where A began, it's possible that we barely break above 587, and we most likely won't go too much higher. Sometimes you'll get a max move around 123%. So if that were to occur, that would be up here around 612. I think that's probably too high. Well, what I'm looking at is a safer zone, a conservative top at least. around 598. And so I based that off of my wave 3 retracements are this top row. 598 came up, and then in the wave A's, 603 was the nearest value, but I think 598 is still more of a conservative target. And on the other side, we're really maxing out here with the wave 3. But because we have to make that movement at or greater than 587, we're going to blow past some of the regular levels that a wave 3 extension, a wave 5 of a wave 3 extension tend to end at. So if we top at 598, and then we then have a requirement to bottom within 115.5 hours, we're looking at a max bottom by before the close on 13 May. And those levels, so wave 3 began at 481.90. So that's all the way back down here, 481.90. So if we top at 598, at the very least we need to drop down to 481. So that is seems like a lot when you're dealing with something priced this high, but that's about 19%. So we're looking at a minimum 19% drop. Now, we probably won't stop right there. We will most likely continue going. So the 114% takes us down to 459, and the 123% takes us down to 446. 459 to 446, those are probably closer to our realm of possibility, and we're going to be tight on time as well. So that's why I said it would help if we topped at the open after earnings on Thursday, and then we begin our decline. So if that's the case, I would expect a low probably around that 123% at the greatest. So we're looking at anywhere between from a top to bottom of 23 to 25% drop. And that's what we're looking at for Meta. Now this next one I'm going to cover real quick is Micron. Micron, I can go with the top. So I'm not trying to push tops and bottoms across the board. So Micron's a little interesting because he's not trading with the rest of the market exactly. He's kind of all over the place. So he topped back in June of 24. And then one, I think I have a clear handle on where one ended, and then two went up. So Micron's actually been pretty interesting for those that have been following it. He's kind of got like a triple top here, and then he continues to have more of a trend where he's been going down, but it's nowhere near as clean, and it's not on the same time frame as the rest of the market. So I tend not to trade stocks that are less predictable when it comes to some of the math and shapes. There's thousands of stocks to trade from. You never have to force yourself to take one that you're not completely confident that it's a good position for you. So that's what I'm going to hold off on Micron. I can attempt to do the 4 top. So I don't know where 2 began, so that's the other problem. The 2 that I have marked began so long ago. I can't use that as a potential level because I'm not positive that my 2 is correct. So I think the highest point was actually back here, September of 24. But if I'm marking out an ABC, so that could have been A, and then for wave B, he could have come down in late September, gone back up mid-October, and then bottomed out with his B in 31 October. That's all kind of unclear, so that's why I don't want to issue, hey, what 3's retracement ultimately looks like. But that's one less level to play with. I can still kind of figure out, okay, we have a wave 3. We're doing wave 4. We bottomed here on 7 April. If wave A went up around 9 April and then wave B ended around 21 April, that's pretty much in line with everybody else. So we still have our A, B, C. So if we take our A and try to figure out what C can do, so let me just mark it out here. So 3, A, B, and C is going to be up here somewhere. On the far right is that extension off of A and its levels. And then, okay, if we are in wave 3, so let me knock this down. So here's some interesting wave 3 signals here at the very bottom. The first one is probably wave 1 or it's the end of wave 1 or we're in wave 3. Let's knock it down to a 30 minutes, see what else we have for signals. Okay, so once again, we have a top and we have a bottom. We have our gap. So this first jump could be wave 1's endpoint, and then wave 2 is one of these bottoms. Wave 3 comes up here, so it looks like the third wave is done, and that's exactly what I called this as. So this is wave 1. Wave 2 is next. Wave 3 ended last Friday at 13:30 Eastern time, and then Monday, so today at 11 we had our low. So I have enough to possibly calculate what wave 5 could do. So once again, I've got my levels plotted, and now I'm just looking for some agreement. Sometimes I look for nice Fibonacci numbers, like here's one right here at 85. That's pretty clean. there's no other numbers that match perfectly until we start to get really high. I don't like when the percentages get this high for a wave 5. Now, if I was looking at trying to calculate a wave 3, all of these percentages normally play. But a pretty decent indicator right here is this 85. So I might actually guesstimate a top around 85. And if it tops with the market here in the next day, is 85 realistic? So we're at 78 today. 85 is possible within the next day and a half or so. But once I have that, I would consider done trading Micron for what's coming next. So I laid out, I didn't have any wave 3 retracements that I was working. I have my wave A and I have my wave 3 extensions. And I like anywhere between this 82 and 85 zone. I like those round numbers at 85. So if I was picking a top right now, I'd probably select around 85. And as my notes say at the bottom, I'm not going to try to guess what the bottom's going to do here. It's I don't have enough data that I like, and there's plenty of other symbols I can play with. The last one I'm going to cover is PCAR. PCAR. All right. This company's been around since turn of the century, last century, 1905. And he topped out back here in December, so he's running a little different period. I think this actually mimics something close to what Apple was trading. Apple began back late last year, I think around like 26 December, and then wave 2 wave 2 may have gone sideways here. It's slightly unclear, but I have it currently mapped out as one was 116 trading hours, and then wave 3 was 152 trading hours. So based on that already, I don't know when wave 5 has to end. It could move with the market. If we look at where 2 ended, so 2 topped on 10 March. That was about 2 weeks after the market topped. So as far as using this as a complete guide throughout, may not work, but we'll give it a shot anyway. All right, so if I take that wave 2 and try to figure out my percentages, it looks like my middle category this time is, my middle column will have that data in it. And then wave A will be my leftmost column, so my wave A movement, and trying to determine what wave C will do. And then my wave 3 I have, looks like it's moving just in line with what Micron just did a second ago. It topped recently after its low around 22 April, so earlier, about a week ago. All right, looking for some agreement. At the very least, we should get back up to this 94 mark, so let's start looking for agreement above 94. Here's a decent one at 96, so 96.4, 96.7, 96.7. I like that. We start to get too high with our right category, where we're above 200%. I don't like that for a wave 5. Wave C, all of these could play. So here's an agreement around 100. 100 seems slightly high. If we only have a few more days left to trade this, I don't know what big news there's going to be for car parts. But tariffs are in play, and that impacts a lot of things right now. So if I bring in my chart, I've marked my 96s. I'm going with a safe conservative top around 96, which is about 4 points off of today's close. We don't have a time frame requirement, so if I'm trying to guess, hey, where do we have to go? If we top along with the market, this one could actually extend and have a bottom much later in May. So all the other ones are looking at maybe the second week to mid-month of May. This one can keep going. It's unclear. As far as levels go, it's another thing I gave it a shot. Wave 3 bottomed over here at 85.1. So if we do top at 96, we need to drop to at least that wave 3 low of 85.10. And then below that, our 114% extension would be 80.78, and then our 123% takes us down to 78. So what does that look like if we actually hit those from top to bottom? If we hit that minimum movement, that's only 11%. If we move to that 114% level, that's only a 15% drop from top to bottom. And once again, that 123% takes us around 18%. So if the rest of the market is looking to move at least around 20% from top to bottom, this 18% drop seems somewhat realistic. But once again, we can't really determine the time frame on when this bottom will happen. Just possibly expect it to occur after the rest of the market. That's all I have for this portion.